In the void of deep space, a shadow lingered, an enormous research vessel known as the Aegis. Its purpose: the systematic capture and experimentation on alien life forms in the name of progress. Then, without warning, all communication ceased. When an elite rescue team was sent to investigate, they found nothing but silence and horrors that defied understanding. Before we dive into this chilling tale of vengeance and terror, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you love spine-tingling stories about horror, aliens, and the supernatural, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now let's begin. I'll never forget the first moment I saw the Aegis. Even from a distance, it felt wrong. A massive shadow in the void, its dark hull absorbing the faint starlight as though it was a wound in space itself. There should have been light pouring from its ports, the hum of activity as its crew carried out their work. Instead, it was lifeless, silent. Earth's most advanced research vessel, they called it, a floating fortress of scientific progress, where humanity extended its reach beyond anything we dared before. But the silence hung over it like a curse. When the comms first went dark, Earth Command hoped it was just a technical failure. A glitch, nothing more. But I think deep down we all knew it wasn't. Our rescue team boarded with the unease of stepping into an unmarked grave. The airlock hissed, the door slid open, and there we were, standing at the threshold of something we couldn't understand. The corridors were pristine, eerily so. The lights flickered in rhythmic pulses, but something about their glow felt off. They cast long shadows that clung to the walls, flickering as if alive. The air smelled stale, the faint scent of burnt circuitry mingling with something metallic. No signs of battle, no blood, no bodies. It was as if the crew had simply ceased to exist. "Stay sharp," Commander Darius Hunt said, breaking the silence. His voice was calm, commanding, but I'd worked with him long enough to catch the subtle tremor beneath his words. We pressed forward. Each step echoed too loudly in the empty halls. Marcus Kane, our security officer, kept his rifle raised, scanning every shadow for signs of movement. Amelia Vega's fingers danced nervously over the controls of her portable scanner, but it only registered the ship systems. No life forms. Nothing. The research wing was where we found the first signs of what had happened aboard the Aegis. At first glance, it looked like any high-tech lab: stainless steel surfaces, glowing monitors, racks of pristine tools. But then we saw the containment pods. Rows of them lined the walls, their glass panels frosted from the inside. Kane wiped a sleeve across one, and that's when we saw it: the skeletal remains of an alien creature curled within. Its translucent skin had dried and cracked, its body twisted as if it had died in agony. Further down, the pods became worse. Some held partially dissected specimens, their organs suspended in vats of viscous liquid. Others contained creatures whose bodies had been grotesquely altered, limbs fused, heads reshaped. Notes were scrawled on the glass in hasty handwriting, diagrams pinned to the walls showing experiments that should never have been attempted. Dr. Zhu, our xenobiologist, leaned closer to one pod. Her face turned pale. They were still alive when this was done. Look at the nerve clusters. This wasn't post-mortem. Kane cursed under his breath. Maddox, our medic, muttered, "What the hell were they doing here?" The answer came when Vega pulled up a series of logs on a nearby console. Flickering video feeds played in horrifying detail. Aliens restrained on cold steel tables, their bodies convulsing as needles probed their flesh. Researchers in sterile suits, speaking clinically about their findings while ignoring the cries of pain. "We were trying to graft their physiology onto ours," Zhu said, her voice barely a whisper. They were intelligent." The silence that followed was deafening. And then Vega's voice crackled through the comms. "Commander, Kane's gone." We backtracked to where we'd last seen him, but there was nothing. No blood, no signs of a struggle. Just his rifle, lying discarded on the floor. The surveillance footage was no help. One moment, Kane was there, walking ahead of us. The next, the screen glitched, and he was gone. "What the hell is going on?" Vega whispered, her voice trembling. We spread out, trying to find any trace of him, but the more we searched, the more we realized something was wrong with the Aegis. The shadows seemed deeper, more alive. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, clicking, like claws tapping on metal, and low, guttural growls that made our stomachs churn. Dr. Zhu was next. One moment, she was examining a console, her face lit by its faint blue glow. The next, a scream echoed down the corridor. By the time we reached her, she was gone, her equipment scattered across the floor. "What is this place?" Maddox said, his voice barely a whisper. It wasn't long before we saw it. Maddox and I were searching the observation deck when the temperature dropped suddenly, our breath fogging the air. The lights dimmed, flickering faintly, and then we saw it. A shimmering figure, its body translucent and otherworldly. At first, it seemed almost serene, its black eyes watching us with an eerie calm. But then its form began to shift, its features contorting into a mask of agony. It let out a shrill, otherworldly scream, and the air around us vibrated with its fury. Maddox didn't stand a chance. The entity lunged at him, its spectral tendrils slicing through his body as though he were made of mist. I ran, his screams echoing in my ears as the lights around me flared and died. I reunited with Vega in the engine room. She was pale, trembling, her hands clutching a wrench as though it could protect her. "It's hunting us," she whispered. We tried to barricade ourselves in, but it was no use. The entity wasn't bound by walls. It appeared and disappeared at will, toying with us, tormenting us. Vega was the next to go. One moment, she was standing beside me. The next, her body was yanked into the shadows, her scream cut short. I was alone. I wandered the Aegis for what felt like an eternity, the weight of the silence pressing down on me like a vice. The entity wasn't just hunting me. It was playing with me. It appeared in flashes, always just out of reach, its presence announced by the flickering of lights or the sound of faint, distorted whispers. Each time I thought I'd lost it, it would appear again, forcing me deeper into the ship's labyrinthine corridors. But it didn't attack me outright. Not yet. Instead, it showed me things, terrible things, as if it could reach into my mind and pull out the images it wanted me to see. I saw its capture, a net of energy constricting its shimmering form, dragging it into one of those containment pods. I felt its confusion as it watched the scientists poke and prod, its agony as needles pierced its translucent flesh, its despair as it saw others of its kind suffering the same fate. It wasn't just rage fueling the entity, it was grief. I tried to speak to it. "We didn't know," I pleaded, my voice shaking. "I wasn't part of this. Let me go." But it didn't care. It wasn't just seeking revenge. It was ensuring that its pain was understood, burned into the very marrow of anyone who survived its wrath. When I finally stumbled into the docking bay, my body was weak, my mind fractured. I don't know why it let me go. Maybe it had tired of me, or maybe it saw something useful in me. I made it back to the rescue ship, collapsing into the pilot's seat, barely able to press the controls that initiated the return to Earth. I escaped the Aegis, or so I thought. Even now, as I tell you this, I can feel it. A faint presence just beyond my vision. In the flicker of a shadow, the whisper of a breeze where there shouldn't be one. It's here, watching, waiting. I think it spared me for a reason. Not mercy, no, something worse. I'm its messenger now, its warning. And now that you've heard my story, it's watching you too.